Greetings everyone, how you doing? This is Coach Fleischer and here we are starting off with Module 4. We are in the green. For today it's going to be a quick presentation, quick overview. It's pretty straightforward, but talking training progressions just from a real simplistic standpoint. And when I coach athletes and I work with clients, I tend to look at how we want to lay things out over a much bigger picture, right? And in general, like when I'm working with athletes, you try to go from general to specific, simple to complex, and stable to unstable, machine to barbell to dumbbell. Beyond just reading off of the slide here, you think of this in terms of perhaps a specific movement for athleticism, right? If you're working with a particular sport team, you look at like the different positions. For example, in baseball, pitchers have different requirements than an outfielder than an infielder. A pitcher is working and throwing at maximal effort over and over repetitively, whereas an outfielder is sprinting long distances to catch a ball and then they're pausing and waiting for quite a while in between plays. An infielder has to basically be able to move around inside of a phone booth, or in a closet in a real short, explosive type movement pattern and be able to execute quickly, rapidly. So if we look at, say, like the sport of baseball, and we look at the specificity of different positions, you start to do, like, say, a general type of warm-up in a workout or a general activity, and then you bring it to something that's more specific. So for example, let's take hitting. If I can kind of change gears from fielding, you look at hitting, you will have maybe you're throwing medicine balls to where you're swinging a bat. Over time, that can happen in a much bigger picture or a much smaller picture, where perhaps in the off season you're doing mostly general strength training, and then once you're in season, you're actually taking reps in the cage, meaning doing batting practice. On the field, you might be doing, perhaps conditioning drills that are more specific to the sport that you're doing. So in general, baseball is a very explosive sport. It looks like a lazy man sport, right? Because you stand around doing nothing for a while. But every time a play is being executed, it's very short, rapid, and explosive. So you might have more generalized conditioning, and then over the course of time, the conditioning becomes more complex in nature and more specific to the sport, where you're actually fielding a ball and you're throwing it to second base, or you're fielding a ball out in the outfield and you have to throw the ball into the infield. For a pitcher, it might be conditioning that is more repetitive in nature and mimics the specific demands of throwing a baseball over and over again, and then the conditioning becomes actually throwing from a mound. In the terms of baseball, you'll have pitchers will come in and they'll do long tosses where they work on arm strength, or there's a kneeling position throw where they work on arm and shoulder strength and they minimize the rest of the body, the effects of the musculature and the rest of the body, and then they actually progress to where they're throwing off of a mound. So this holds true when you look at doing things on the floor, to doing things standing on a BOSU or a foam mat, to work on layering in instability, which requires a different set of musculature to work for somebody to keep from falling over, basically. And then the progression can go from machines, which are very stable, to barbells, which are more unstable, to dumbbells, where you go from a bilateral to a unilateral concept, and you can float back and forth between those. So overall training progressions, and this is very National Strength Conditioning Association kind of mindset, where it's from general to specific, simple to complex. And as somebody who's worked with clients for 20 years now, I look at it in terms of also stability as a continuum, meaning they're in a very stable environment to an unstable environment. And then when I first work with clients who've never worked out before, it's usually, it's more accommodating, if you will, to have somebody come in and work on a machine first, because they're more comfortable with that and it feels safer to them. And to that end, they'll come in, they'll work on some basic strength and work on strengthening the muscles, tendons, and ligaments and bones, like we've talked about in previous lectures, and then progress to a more unstable environment like a barbell and then a dumbbell, and then perhaps doing a dumbbell exercise standing on a BOSU or standing on a foam mat. So you kind of see how you layer in those layers of complexity into a workout. All right, guys, hope you're doing well. Hope the workouts are going well. Be on the lookout for a check for learning here in the next week or so. Thanks.